Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are continuing on in our study of the Tao Te Ching for astrologers. We're looking at the Tao Te Ching in light of our study and practice of astrology. It's midweek. We're pausing to just take a moment and say, why am I here? Why am I doing this? You don't have to have seen any of the other episodes in this series to get something out of this. Every verse of the Tao Te Ching is packed full of wisdom, and we are looking at these verses in order to apply them or compare them to some of the reasons that we study and practice astrology. Verses 43 and 44 we'll be looking at today. Before I get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments, click the notification bell for updates. All of this helps the channel to grow. You can always find a transcript of any of my daily talks on the website, nightlightastrology.com, on the blog. And I also am excited to announce the new program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. My first year program in Hellenistic astrology begins on November 12th. You can take advantage of the early bird rate that is on the website right now. If you visit nightlightastrology.com, I'll take you over there right now and show you how you can learn more. Here it is. Under the courses page, you'll see first year course. We start new programs every June and November. You can join a new cohort and study together for a year. You can take it at your own pace. Every webinar is held on Saturdays starting November 12th from noon Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes we go to 3. There's about 2 to 3 hours per class. There's 30 classes on the year. If you visit the course website, you can see what some of the alumni have said about it. The 30 classes I lead, and then we also have 12 guest lectures that come in throughout the year in our speaker series. We have an interactive group forum discussion that's staffed by our tutors, and they will answer your questions, whatever they may be, within a day. You also have a breakout study sessions in between major units that our tutoring staff leads to help you answer questions. We have live readings toward the end of the program where you get to see people come in, and you actually get to see how the theory is applied to learning to read charts. So it's a fantastic program for people who want to learn to read charts for other people, or perhaps even just take your study to the next level for yourself. Having the ability to read your own birth chart is an absolutely incredible gift. It is like the equivalent of getting yourself a GPS for your car, which most of us can't do without these days. And really, I really, at this point in my life, I can't even count the number of ways that it has benefited me to be able to look at transits day in and day out, month in and year out for myself, my family members, and friends. What to speak of the professional opportunities. Astrology is growing. It's becoming a lot more popular now. It's more mainstream, you could say, which means that it's a little bit easier to find people who are interested in getting a reading. It's not so out there. There's always been an interest in astrology, but things like yoga and spirituality, alternative ways of looking at health and healing, are just more doable for most people these days. So I think it's a great career path, and certainly this program will help you prepare. You can learn, if you watch this video, you'll see what some of my students have been doing, some graduates from the program, and how they've already been seeing clients and talking about that. At the bottom of the page, you can sign up. The early bird payment saves you $500 off, so be sure to take care of that. If you need a payment plan, you can stretch out the tuition over 12 months. So we have a monthly payment plan you can sign up for. And we also have need-based tuition. So need-based tuition would be if you are on a budget and the price point for the class is out of your reach, and that's not going to change for you in any time or in an easy way. We really want to make sure that you have an option that's available for you, because we don't believe that people should be priced out of studying astrology. We felt the same way about yoga. My wife and I had a yoga studio for 10 years. It was donation based. So we always try to keep some option open. So check out the need-based tuition option if you want to take advantage of one of the courses, but you can't afford it. This year, one course, same thing. Take advantage of it. We just ask that people sign up for it early if they want to use it, because it's a lot easier than having us getting bombarded with all the applications at the last minute. So sign up early. That really helps us on the administrative level. That's all we all we can ask for. Sometimes it doesn't matter. People sign up close to the deadline, and then, we're the week before class, we're just insanely busy. Either way, we hope that you'll join us in class, and hope to see some of you coming to study astrology in the next program. All right. Well, today we're going to look at the 43rd and 44th verses of the Tao Te Ching. I'm really excited to share these two with you guys. These are two of my favorite verses, actually, in the entire Tao Te Ching. So yeah, I love these two, and they're very simple but just super powerful. So I'm going to read through each verse once, and then after I read through them, I'm going to come back to each verse, read it again, and offer some reflections as an astrologer. How do these verses hit me as a daily practicing astrologer? And hopefully that'll be useful to you as someone who's consuming astrological content. Verse 43, the most yielding thing in the world will overcome the most rigid. The most empty thing in the world will overcome the most full. From this comes a lesson. Stillness benefits more than action. Silence benefits more than words. Rare indeed are those who are still. Rare indeed are those who are silent. And so I say, rare indeed are those who obtain the bounty of this world. Verse 44. One's own reputation, why the fuss? One's own wealth, why the concern? I say, what you gain is more trouble than what you lose. Love is the fruit of sacrifice. Wealth is the fruit of generosity. Be content. Rest in your own fullness. You'll not suffer from loss. You'll avoid the snare of this world. You'll have long life and endless blessing. Two beautiful verses, two of my favorite verses in the Tao Te Ching. Let's go back to verse 43 and do it again. The most yielding thing in the world will overcome the most rigid. How do I learn this as an astrologer every day? Often, it comes through Saturn. It comes through Saturn transits, for example, but any transit could be applicable here. When things happen, we feel oftentimes like, something's coming at us. We have to handle it. We have to deal with it. And usually the underlying feeling is like, let me deal with this and get it resolved so I can get back to feeling peaceful. And so we react very strongly to things that we're averse to or that frustrate us or that come and block or impede our progress. And in turn, we try to remove that obstacle forcibly with a lot of action, usually with a spirit of frustration, a fear, and then we feel exhausted and we feel like thwarted. And there's a feeling of something, it's kind of unfair and monotonous, and it's almost like, oh, it never ends. And I hear people who love to watch astrology say this all the time in the comments. It feels like it's just one thing after another. It's just one transit after another. And the answer there is yes. It is one thing after another. It is one transit after another. This is why ancient astrologers, for example, the Stoics, I'm not saying you need to go and be a Stoic, but Taoists, very similar to Stoics in some respects, would say that when you yield to the flow of events, you overcome the most rigid things. You overcome, in other words, the things that feel like the biggest impediments or blocks or frustrations. You overcome them by having a yielding, soft, gentle, accepting attitude. Doesn't mean that you accept someone or something that is out to get you or harm you or that's unjust or cruel or evil or something like that. It just means that when adversity comes, you have a way of recognizing, especially as an astrologer, oh, look, these are the gods. This is karma. This is the nature of things. And it has a divine meaning and purpose. Even though I don't like it, this is a part of what is. And so you soften. It's like a position. If you're overly rigid in any position or sport, like you're more likely to get injured. If you're a little bit softer, more pliable, this is what yoga is good for, by the way, asana anyway. You soften the mind, soften the body, soften the heart. It does not mean that you lack strength or intelligence or discernment, but it does mean that you're able to navigate around. You become like water. You move around and with things. And astrology teaches that all the time by bombarding us with transits. And if we pay attention, we learn that this is the only real attitude or dispositions spiritually, psychically, that can help us move through things. The most empty thing in the world will overcome the most full. From this comes a lesson. And that's a similar teaching, same thing. From this comes a lesson. Stillness benefits more than action. Silence benefits more than words. Every day before I create my talks for the day, because I talk for a living. So you would think I'd be disqualified from this advice, from having anything to say about this advice, since every time you see me in your life, wherever you may be, you hear me talking. But every morning before I do this, there are 90 minutes of meditation. There's time reading sacred things. There's time spent in contemplation, and there's time spent taking care of my body and my health. And that is a deliberate, that has been my entire career. Before I create content, I do that. if there's anything that I feel like has given me any modicum of success, if someone said, what makes you good at astrology, or how have you had any business success? Not that I've had much compared to, whoever or whatever, but I'm not, I'm not so proud of any of this stuff. But sometimes people ask me, and if I were to say that there was anything, I would be like, well, I think that it's probably because I take time to take care and nurture and my body, my mind, my spirit. And especially before talking to people every day about astrology, I have to have silence. Rare indeed are those who are still, rare indeed are those who are silent. And the more that I take silence every day, the more that I'm able to perceive the planets in my life, and the more that I'm able to perceive how busy I am and how little my words mean anything without silence. So I say, rare indeed are those who obtain the bounty of this world. See, and the idea being that the richness, the pleasure, the happiness of this world comes when we are flexible, when we empty ourselves out so that we might receive, when we practice at least some stillness and silence. That it's only when we open ourselves up that we can actually receive the gift of what is. Similarly, the astrology changes from, oh my God, I'm getting bombarded from transit to transit. There's always something. Mercury's retrograde. Oh, this is going through this house and blah, blah, blah. It's always like that until we have some silence, some stillness, some emptiness, and some flexibility. When we bring those things in, then suddenly the planets are constantly, it's like a fountain that's giving us life, that's giving us energy, that's giving us insight, that's connecting us to divinity and each other. It feels lovely. Not all the time, but you can feel it more often than not. And so that's how that changes. That experience in astrology changes from, oh, there's just constant bombardment of astrological energies, and I always feel like I'm just dealing with them and flipping out, to this, to something that feels like, it makes you feel like the world or the cosmos is beautiful and rich. Verse 44, one's own reputation. Why the fuss? One's own wealth. Why the concern? I say what you gain is more trouble than what you lose. This is beautiful. I have a hard time with this as someone who definitely likes to see, like, the subscribers go up on my YouTube channel or the likes on an Instagram post. It's hard to not care what other people think about you or how much you have. I feel so far from those things. Sometimes I feel like I let go and I don't care. A lot of the times I do, and it's such a tug of war. And I'm sure that you can relate if you're listening to this. Here's the sage saying to us that what you gain is more trouble than what you lose. Well, why would that be the case? Because what you gain is always then something that you have to maintain. There's a lot of energy spent maintaining things. And then the fear of losing things and the inevitability of losing things create a very stressful experience. I don't think that means you should just walk the planet naked, like you're, just walk out the front door into the vast, wild, just naked, So anyway, I like the next verse a lot, or the next part of the verse. Love is the fruit of sacrifice. Wealth is the fruit of generosity. When we sacrifice, and I would say that sacrifice means being devoted to something regularly with consistency over and over, that love comes out of that. It's like a guitar. If you love your guitar, I love my guitar. I'm not that great at it or anything, but we're just astrology. Love astrology. If you love it and you sacrifice something into it over time, like your kids too, love grows naturally out of sacrifice. Now, sacrifice does not mean self-harm. See, people hear that word and they think, oh, no. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice. I'm not self-harming. Let's bring back the beauty of that word, right? So proportional, meaningful sacrifice. Wealth is the fruit of generosity. You feel so much more wealthy internally in spirit when you're generous with people. Be content, rest in your own fullness. You'll not suffer from loss. You'll avoid the snare of this world. You'll have long life and endless blessing. If you feel full inside, if you are generally being devoted and you sacrifice something of yourself to the things that you love, you'll get to experience love. If you are generous, then you will experience yourself as full. This is what creates the feeling, or experience of wealth internally, and this is what creates the feeling or experience of love, sacrifice, and generosity. Now, again, sacrifice, giving, pouring a little sweat into the fire, a little butter, a little ghee into the fire. So, how does this translate to our lives as astrologers or students of astrology? It's simple. If you pay attention to the planets and you develop a love for their movements, their teachings, their meanings, their appearances, and you let your life be dedicated to following them, right? And there is some sacrifice involved in that. Not everyone gets astrology or, approves of it or appreciates it, and yet you have to keep going. So astrology is something that you may not always, it requires something. It requires that we learn to suffer and tolerate certain seasons, certain archetypal patterns. But when you do and you keep following it, then you start to love it. And loving astrology is different than surviving it or needing to check in on it all the time out of worry or fear or hope or anxiety and riding the roller coaster. So a little bit of sacrifice. Okay, I'm a student of astrology and I'm receiving the wisdom of the planets. It goes a long way, and it generates within us a love for the planets. So, and if you share astrology with other people generously, you also feel so good about astrology. Like, in the beginning, one of the things I did to build my astrological career was I just did a ton of readings for people, and I did them all by donation. And to this day, I feel that the generosity inherent in my business's mission statement is part of what makes me love astrology so much. Giving it to other people, sharing it with other people, and then being like, hey, if you like this, here's ways of contributing, or just trusting that if you give generously, that clients show up. So I think that there's something to that not that it's always like it's not like a formula. It has to be sincere. But I know that I love astrology the most when I am sharing it generously with other people, and when I'm sacrificing something of myself into the content I create or the relationship I have with the planets. That's when you start to love it and you move beyond, oh my God, I feel like I'm just getting slammed by transit after transit. So anyway, I hope you guys found this valuable today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments, click the notification bell for updates. You can always find a transcript of any of my daily talks on the website, nightlightastrology.com, where you can also learn more about the upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. Starts on November 12th. Hope to see some of you in class soon. That's what I've got for today. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.